Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Weinstock from Nations Photo Lab. Wes Croninger is going to share his screen. Wes is from NextGen Photo Solutions, and I'm really excited that Wes has joined us today for this presentation. I think you guys are going to love what he has to show you as far as their unique system for sports photography workflow, which I'm personally really excited about. Their system is incredible. I'll let Wes tell you guys more about it in a moment, but the way that they're photographing these events and then the designs that they're creating from these, they're an excellent partner for any studio, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this presentation today. And I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions for Wes, and he's happy to answer those. So Wes is going to go through his presentation in a few moments. I'm going to share his screen, and he's going to tell you all about NextGen Photo Solutions and how it can help your studio and impress your customers. All right, great. Wes, I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter.
Okay.
And we're going to go ahead and jump right into your presentation.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Jonathan. NextGen sort of started from, we started shooting sports. We came into the sports world sort of green. We hadn't really done any volume stuff before. Photographer and some people that helped me start the business were senior portrait photographers, things like that. So when we came in to the volume world, we sort of knew how we wanted to do it. We just didn't realize how important it was to have systems in place at that time. So we knew that we wanted to photograph everybody separately, individually, and then have virtual teams created on the back end. And we knew we wanted to do that, but we just didn't know what that meant at the time. So we did our first couple jobs, took seamless paper, the things that we knew at the time, photographed these teams, shot everybody individually, got back, sent the images out for extraction. Then we got the extractions back. Then we had to sit and build all the teams, build all the product files, and do all that stuff that comes after the fact. So to get the advantages of photographing everybody individually, which means that, the team doesn't actually physically have to be there at the same time, which, there's just a lot of advantages that come along with that. But the back end process was just too much. And we realized that there had to be a better way to go about this. And as we sort of looked for resources, we couldn't find any. And so we just sort of started creating our own resources to get ourselves from point A to point B as efficiently as possible. Then at some point we realized that we had created something that other photographers could use. Because we couldn't find resources, we knew that other photographers were out there bouncing around doing the same things we were, trying to do what we knew was possible technologically speaking, photographing, extracting, and then building these composited teams, but to not spend weeks in front of a computer where that's not where our time is best spent. So that's sort of, it started as Next Generation Sports Photography. That was the name of our sports photography company, and it morphed into Next Generation Photography Solutions, which is now sort of what we built, now available to everybody to use. And I say that what we had originally built looked nothing like what's available today. And now that we've had hundreds of photographers using the system, making suggestions, needing features, now it's completely, its own piece of software, along with the actual, the image side, the data, the image services is just part of it. And you'll see as I go through this that the data management, the job management, barcode scanning, and all that stuff that a volume photographer really needs to keep things where they need to be, that all was built as well and strengthened with suggestions and photographers telling us what they need. So there's two sides of what we do. One side is the data management and workflow system. So that's sort of a means to an end. So it's a way for you to be able to get your data, your player data, rosters, image numbers, all that stuff into a platform that then can deliver that to us so that we can do what we need to do with the appropriate data, the correct names of players, because everything's customized. So we need to know what a player's name is, what team he's on, all that stuff. So we had to build a platform that would allow you to bring that stuff in a clear, linear workflow path to take the data in and deliver it to us with the images, and then we can do everything on the back end of that. So then the other side is obviously the side that people see that get excited about. This is the stuff that your customer sees, are the virtual teams and the graphic design work for your products and stuff that you're going to print through Nations. So two sides of it. One is just keeping your job intact, and two, doing all of your extraction design work. So the system works really well. You can see this is kind of the interface that you see when you're working through a job. I'm not going to get too in depth. I just want to sort of give you an overview of what's possible, and then if you're interested, you can sign up and you'll get a training video, and then you'll get the real down and dirty information. But you can just see that these steps on the left-hand side are steps that you're dealing with day in and day out if you're shooting volume stuff. If you're already shooting volume, a lot of the stuff is already stuff you're dealing with on your own. If you're new to volume, it's really great because it's a workflow in a box. You don't have to figure out what your steps need to be. They're right here in numeric order. It'll walk you right through it. So, you set up your job, you deal with your rosters. You can import real rosters or let our system just create a generic roster with player 1, player 2, player 3. You can upload logos, job type. We have barcode scanning, or you can just photograph manually, meaning that you can write down the image number and then just key that into the system when you put the rest of your data in. The photo day kit is basically your barcodes. You upload your images to us through an FTP server. You can put your customer orders in, and that's actually how NextGen can be as inexpensive as possible, because with your customer orders, we know exactly what you need graphics wise. If there's a handful of graphics that we can create that are different ratios, some with the name and some without name. So with all of that, we don't want to have to build everything for everyone, because that gets expensive. If somebody only orders a memory mate, well, if we know that, then we can just create you a memory mate graphic and you can go have that printed. And that keeps the cost down because it keeps the effort down. Then the process page is just, that's where you match up your images and then check out, select your template and all that stuff. So the site, we really wanted the site to be, again, consistent, because every one of your jobs is exactly the same. The steps to walk through the process are exactly the same. No one has to remember what the steps are. If you have staff, anything like that, they log into the site, it's going to be step 1 through 9 every single time. So that's sort of the website side. Again, I think there's a couple slides where we'll touch back, but that's pretty much in a nutshell what that's doing. Then obviously the virtual teams and graphics work. So all of the images that you see, everybody was photographed individually, one at a time, and then extracted and placed together. We do use 3D technology, so your teams are, if they're photographed properly, meaning that the camera's locked down and everybody hits the same mark, so that everybody comes to us proportionately scaled. Because we're doing this in 3D, we guarantee that somebody's height is appropriate depending on whether they're closer to the viewer or further from the viewer. So as you push somebody further away, they scale down. As you pull them forward, they scale up. And that's all done through 3D algorithms, not a designer trying to keep track of that and do that manually. Again, I'm just going to kind of flip through some of the teams and some of the stuff so you can see. We do hard underfoot shadows, soft outer shadows, gradients from the ground up, reflections, or directional shadows. So we really do try to ground these to environment. And then, so those were the team files. Then the individual files, same thing. I mean, we're getting, yeah, so someone asked, I can actually see the screen, so that's good. The graphics, these graphics are included. We have quite a few graphics on the site that are default graphics, and you can just select the cost for that. Or if you need to, purchase something because it's a sport we don't have or something, you can always buy from one of our vendors, give to us. We charge $35 to set it up for automation so that the names can update and all that stuff. And then it just lives within your user account forever. So you would have access to that account or graphic moving forward. But you can see the simplified studio lighting that we're using. It just looks great. I mean, these look like they could be senior portrait sessions or something. I mean, this is the lighting and the extraction and the graphics and everything just pops. So that's really good. Then the customized stuff where you have memory mates and graphics, everything has got a good layering to it. There's some depth and dimension to the graphics. And again, all these graphics are available on the site. Different sports, we've got hockey, soccer, basketball, baseball. Pretty much at this point, we're getting to a place where we've got everything covered. We're a little slim on the martial arts right now. We're trying to get some stuff like that. So basically what we do is everybody's photographed on a HiLite HiLite, so you'll kind of get an idea of what that looks like in the next pictures. But so we shoot a team picture, a team pose, then a separate pose for the individual, and then if somebody wants to do a buddy, you have the opportunity to do a buddy image or a sibling photo. So the team image gets composited in a team photo, then the individual image gets used on all of the product files. So then a buddy image, the same thing would happen. So that's sort of the beauty of it, is that because everybody's photographed individually, we can handle late or absent players, makeup days and all that stuff, which is a good selling tool to leagues. That, you know, one of the things that makes these things the most painful is getting a bunch of kids to line up for a actual physical group photo. That's tough. Obviously, we've all been through it, and it's hard. Again, barcode scanning. There's barcode scanning. It's untethered barcode scanning, so you don't have to be attached to a computer or anything to barcode scan. It's just time-based. So this little scanner fits in the palm of your hand. You go into our system will create the barcodes and read the barcodes. So you take the barcodes, scan, take the images, and that's a great way to have it auto match your images for you without having to write down image numbers and all that stuff. The photography side, again, the HiLite this is basically the setup for the HiLite. It's just it's an illuminated background, white background. So instead of having to use green screen or something that's a little more cumbersome or hard to do perfectly, you know, a lot of people struggle with green screen to get it right. And if you've got any kind of staff photographers, this is just way easier to do and to be sure you're not getting a bunch of green bleed in your images. Plus, because the background is illuminated, we can be really close to the background, and that allows for a smaller footprint where you can get your shooting stations into really small little spaces. That works really well. This, for instance, is a user we have up near the Cleveland area. He shot a soccer league. It's an 800-member soccer league, and they didn't have an indoor facility to shoot. So he went out, reached out to Dick's Sporting Goods. They let him set up, and because the stations are so small, he set up 4 stations in this little walkway outside of Dick's Sporting Goods, and all the players came. He photographed everybody, Dick's gave out coupons, people went and shopped, and everybody, it was a great experience. So this just shows you, one, the flexibility. I think he said that it was pouring down rain outside, at least for part of the day. So it would have been miserable, but they're in like a shopping mall basically. So that's the other beautiful thing about this, is that you can shoot inside. And we really pushed when we were doing this. We really pushed to get inside, even if we had to find resources nearby, a hotel, a church, or something that would allow us to get indoors, even if we had to pay a little bit of money. But you can use the HiLite outside in a tent, kind of block the ambient light, get the HiLite in there, and it works just as well. I think people put wood down under that vinyl train so it doesn't get all crinkled up when people are standing on it. But yeah, outdoor works just as well as indoor. So again, the data management, I'll kind of just go over this. So actually what I think I'm doing here is just walking through the steps. So first you manage your data, you have the site, you photograph your job, either barcode or manual. When we barcode, we always do it in sequence, the same sequence. We always do the team image first, individual, buddy. Then you do once you get back to the studio, you have all of your orders. You enter your orders into our system. You can either use our sort of visual order entry side, or you can just key everything into a spreadsheet and import it into the system, and it will auto put all your packages and products in. We're finding that a lot of people like to do their data entry onto a spreadsheet and import that in, as opposed to walking through each player one by one, sort of visually on the website. It just speeds things up. So we do have some export import features that allow you to do that a little more efficiently. Then at that point, we take the images and we'll extract, give you back all your PNG extractions, come back to you. And then at that point, we'll proof the images to you. So you get full proofing, where you can make comments and move people around and shuffle things and move him over there, and you can make any comments. You can see over on the left-hand side, all the teams are coming back to you, so that you can get you can give us feedback if you need people moved, or all that stuff. So even though we're doing the work, you're still in control of the final result. And there's a lot of people that like to have as much control as possible, and so I do like to stress, while we are doing the work, you are still putting eyes on it, and you are still able to make sure that you are the quality control in all of this. And then it'll also proof the individual graphics. So if you want to bump a name over, change a text color, do that kind of stuff, we will. So you can see on this last slide, all the teams are different colors. There is an option where you can have the template matched to the team. So they basically take whatever the dominant color is on the jersey and plug that into the automation, so that whatever in the graphic that can be themed, colored, then that can be all of your graphics will match the teams, which is nice. So then at that point, you'll get a job that says, an email that says your job is complete. And you basically can go in, download data that's specifically set up for nations, and then take it over and import that in to, I think it's rows. And then that data that you put into our site can then flow through to the lab side and allow you to not have to do that data entry twice. That's where the integration really happens, because we need to know names and what they order and all that stuff. I don't want you to have to do that data entry 2 times. So that's where the integration with the lab comes in, that now you can pull that data and take it over and put it into the order entry software, so you don't have to now go in and key those orders in a second time. That's duplistic. So then again, going back to the templates that you had asked about, we have templates from a bunch of different designers on the site, and that's all available to you to use. and there's probably 100 on there at this point. And if you're coming in now, all of these might be new to you, and that gives you a good catalog of being able to switch it up year to year. We always try to, going into the next year, have some new stuff so that people that have been with us from the beginning have new templates that they can use to, freshen that up each year, so they're not using the same templates from year to year. And again, this is just a handful of, I think these are all Josh Hanna templates, but it just kind of gives you an overview of kind of the variation that's possible, and so you don't ever feel like you're settling on a template. And then, like I said, you can always go out and get templates if you need something that we don't have. So again, that's sort of everything spelled out, what we're doing. Data, managing your data, creating your graphics and your images, allowing you to take that data back to the lab so that it can flow straight into the lab software and place your orders. Does anybody have any questions right now? I'm going to go over the pricing, but I know that's probably the biggest question. But are there any other logistical questions or anything? I know I went over that quick. I just don't want to take up a bunch of your time this afternoon, but if you've got questions, let me know. Let me know now. It really is, what we feel like is, one, if someone's been photographing a league for years and years and years, this is just a fresh, exciting way to approach what you're doing. And we just find that this process and product is a great transition from a traditional model where, again, we're getting to a point where parents can take these pictures and go have this stuff printed themselves. So we're a little easier able to create a product that the parent can't have access to. This is something that just the normal bystander could not get this level of customization and graphics without, quite a bit of work on their end. So that's what we're trying to do, is give a new product a fresh spin on this, plus the being able to photograph everybody individually just opens up the door for a lot of flexibility on shoot day, and parents like that. The first time you ever have a parent come up to you and say, my youngest son is scheduled at 9 a.m., but my older son is not scheduled until 2 p.m. Is it possible to get their picture taken now at the same time? And you say yes. But I mean, can he be in the team picture? Yeah, he can. We take everybody's picture individually, and then the team is created later. So yes, he can have his picture taken now and not have to be here when his team is here, and he'll still be in the team picture. So the first time you tell a parent that they don't have to leave and come back, you then have a cheerleader that will sing your praises forever. So that's a big deal. And we are learning how to work with different companies, Photo Day, and some of these other platforms that are coming out. Capture Life. We've got customers that are using NextGen flowing through to Capture Life, and they love that. So anything, I'm not sure what types of products for online prepay or online post sales that are available through Nations, but we're constantly trying to find ways to streamline the process from start to finish so that, one, the parents get a good experience, have a good shopping experience, and then also the photo experience and then the product. So we're trying to button all that up to make it all a top shelf experience for the whole process.
Yeah, Wes, just jump in earlier. You're asking, there's a couple other questions before the presentation, and I love that. By the way, I love that example about the siblings. And I know as a parent, that's like incredible to be able to have that flexibility in scheduling. But one of the questions, maybe you touched on it during the presentation, was just about the setup, which is a totally new way of photographing, a new learning curve and equipment. I don't know if you can touch on that part, what's involved, what you guys recommend as far as setting them up and training them with the system, the photography system itself?
Yeah, I mean, if I go back to, I mean, as far as gear wise, I mean, most people have a set of strobes.
Yeah.
The one great thing about the lighting setup is two lights. So one light is the main light, and then one light is the background that's inside of the HiLite that basically makes it a big softbox. So, I mean, for the most part, most people have strobes, most people have a tripod. And that's really, other than the HiLite itself, that's really the only equipment needed to get started. We will take images not shot on the HiLite, but because we have figured out how to make that extraction process as efficient as possible coming off the HiLite, and we know exactly what those images are going to look like coming in. If you don't photograph on the HiLite, we charge an extra $1 a player, and that's just because once you're not on the HiLite, we don't know what our extraction process is going to look like anymore. You know, some people will photograph on gray, some people will do green screen, some people will, you know, shoot up against a bush, you know. So at that point, honestly, you know, the extra $1 probably doesn't even cover the amount of effort that could potentially come up if you're not photographing on the HiLite. But again, I am a commercial photographer. I teach lighting. I have taught 5 years of master classes at WPPI on lighting. I've written a book on lighting. I don't use the HiLite because I have some connection with Manfrotto and we make money off of it. The only thing I get from Manfrotto for the HiLite is they ship the HiLite for me to shows so I can demo it. That's it. The only reason I talk about the HiLite and utilize the HiLite is because I know for what we're trying to achieve in doing these volume shoots, it solves all the problems. And if I go back to here, so effectively what you get a beautiful key light, which, you know, you can use an umbrella, beauty dish, softbox, Octabank, whatever you like to use for your main. And then the HiLite itself is your hair light. It's your strip banks from head to toe strip banks, which is hard to do anyway, even with I mean, you'd have to go to a shoot with a 6-foot strip bank, which that's probably not going to happen. So you get edge lighting, and then hair lighting, and then you get a nice clean white background to get a nice extraction off of. You can see her hair is pretty nicely extracted. The only thing you have to really watch out for is overlighting the HiLite. So if you pump too much light in, it starts to flare, or you're just getting too much light, that's it. So I just tell people to err on the side of underexposing it so that it's all you need is to kill. So if your main light was here, can you guys see my cursor?
I can see it at least.
Okay. So hopefully you guys can. So if your main light was here, she would naturally have a shadow back here. So all we really want to do with the HiLite is eat up that shadow for our extraction, and then get a little bit of an edge light, and that's it. A lot of times when portrait photographers have learned how to do a high key set, you're 2 stops over, and with the background, and it gets a little too glowy. Because we're shooting for extractions, we don't want any light glowing through hair, because at that point they can't find edges and they sort of just have to chop it off, and your extraction's just not as good, and there's nothing, you know, that our production team can do about it. It's just that there's not enough information to find the edges of the hair. So I'd rather have somebody underlight the HiLite as opposed to overlighting it. Same with green screen. If you're shooting green screen, you put too much light on the green, that's when it's going to bounce back and flare through all of your hair and all that stuff.
I think the system is great because, like, we've talked about this before, and this is what got me interested in your system when I first sat in one of your saying this webinar. Basically, it's at Sync, was the consistency to be able to scale across many photographers, because that's always the biggest complaint for volume sports, is that keep that consistency. So that's why personally, I would, if I were to go out to shoot sports, I would get the setup and just follow what you guys have created here versus
Yeah,
doing
but
like straight to,
the reality is whether you're going to use NextGen or not, this setup,
right?
from my point of view, for what we do, is the most efficient. And the thing is, I set somebody up in this position. I meter. I recommend f8 or above, since we're shooting for extraction. We want the back of the subject to be as in focus as the front, because that's actually where the extraction is happening. But I can meter this at f8, and if I'm always using the same lights, and I'm setting up just off the corner of the HiLite train every time, if I look at what the number is on this light, I don't even have to meter it every time. I can set my lights up, go to power 4, and I know that's f8 every single time. So you could practically at that point set up a how-to that you could hand to a photographer, and they could set this up in 10 minutes and be shooting perfect images with your consistency and all that stuff every single time. Which for photographers, we have some big studios that use NextGen that send us 90 team shoots. And on those shoots, they have to get either seasonal employees or stringers or something to help with these shoots. And because this is so simple, they don't have to worry about something. The photographer can focus on the things they need to focus on, like posing and people not blinking and keeping things in focus, as opposed to lighting and where the sun is and all that stuff. So it really does sort of simplify the process so that it's simplified for everyone. So.
I love you have never a rain out either, right? As long as you're prepared, either, well, good timing with that picture. Yeah,
Yeah.
either you have cover or you set up something like kind of a backup location. I mean, that's amazing. I've seen a lot of photographers you could lose an entire league or lose a lot of money that you prepared for through the weather, which you just go
Yeah, I
over
mean, that's
earlier.
completely out of your control, but having a system that allows for that flexibility. Well, we were going to shoot outside, but now we're going into the gym, and it doesn't matter, either way, it doesn't matter. So that's good.
Exactly. Awesome.
So was there another question before?
I think the pricing, of course, is something that I know you touched on earlier. I think we should probably jump into the pricing.
Yeah, let me get to that here. Here, okay. So we have two different ways we can do teams. One is the 3D, the virtual 3D, like I was talking about. That's where we do a lot of the grounding to the environment, so drop shadows and reflections and all that stuff. And then we have virtual riser, which is just we might put a bar across the bottom so there are no feet, and the players are just stacked from there. And that's used for the larger teams, 25, 25, 35 and up. And so the two pricing points, one, the dynamic, the 3D is $1.75 a player, and then the riser is $1 a player. So for people that are potentially already sending off their images for extraction and then getting the extractions back, on the 3D side, you're only paying 25 cents more. You're probably paying around $1.50 an image for extraction. So for this, you're only paying 25 cents more, and all the work is being done for you. So that's really good. And then obviously on the riser style, it's cheaper than the extraction. I'll get to the turnaround time in one sec. So then on the individual image, so again, remember we have a team image and an individual image. So we have 8 graphics that we can produce. If you were to run it to where we just run all 8 graphics by default, then it's just a $2 flat per person. So that's the extraction and then creating all those 8 graphics for you to use. What we're finding is that we created this build only what you need. And that's what I was talking about before. This means that you're putting your orders into our system, so we know what you need for each person. So for that, what we do is $1 for the extraction, and then 25 cents per graphic that's needed to fulfill that order. So if somebody just needs a memory mate, it's $1.25. If they need a memory mate and say something like a bag tag, it would be $1.50. So you're just every additional graphic that's needed, you would just add a quarter. If you that and one graphic can be used for multiple products, though. If you have a package that's an 8x10 individual, four 4x5 individual, and a sheet of wallets individual, that's only one graphic. So that whole package is only going to cost you $1.25. It's not per product, it's per graphic. So you may sell a bag tag and a keychain, and those take the same graphic. So that would just be 25 cents one time. Then this price is actually different. The buddy image functions just like an individual image. So you would have $1 for the extraction and then 25 cents per graphic, or a flat $2. We can do just extraction on the individuals, but we only do extraction only if you are having us build the teams. So we're not just an extraction only service. You have to be doing at least the teams being composited to get the extraction only, and it's $1.25 an image. Turnaround time. Again, we get asked turnaround time. In the volume world, that's sort of a loaded question, because we have people that send us one team, and then we have people that send us 90 teams. So obviously, those are two huge different conversations. I like to say that we want to get any of our work, regardless of how big the job is, done in 7 working days. So 7 business days. Now, obviously, from there, you can sort of work backwards. Some things we deliver, you're getting your proofs in 2 days, and then you sign off on the proofs and you have them that day, if it's a small job. But then it just obviously increases from there just based on volume. And then, but we don't ever want to take more than 7 days. The proofing process, because you log in, you look at your proofs, you make edits, you send it to them, they make changes, send it back to you. That's a little bit out of my hands. So I don't count those as working days. So I tell people as they're getting started with NextGen to pad a little bit of extra timing in there, because as they get used to, 1, using the system and shooting in the system, 2, communicating with the production team about changes they need, that I just want a little extra time in there so that they're not stressed out and trying to get all this done. The other thing to consider is that just peak seasonal times. I mean, you see this with your lab. Sometimes in the middle of the summer, the lab is turning your stuff around the next day. But you get in the middle of September and October, it's probably slowing down a little bit. So we're sort of the same. Once we start to get a lot of orders coming in, things can delay by a day or two, and that's just, that's just natural. You probably slow down when you're busy as well. So, like, I think last week we processed 7,500 images in 3 days. And, all of that coming in at one time, obviously it goes into the queue, and we're trying to get things through as quickly as possible. But obviously in this peak time, you can't reflect what we do in the summer and what we do mid-October. It's apples to oranges. But if I boil everything down, regardless of the size of your league, we want to do all of this work in less than 7 days. And then that allows you to get the stuff handed over to the lab, and then they do their thing, and you can still have that good 2-week, 3-week turnaround to your league with this, great custom product. We're pretty excited that you can do all of this work and deliver sometimes faster than some of the photographers that are doing traditional work. So
yeah, it takes them away from their computer having to sit there and edit photos.
Yeah, that's really the biggest thing, is that, we know that your time is better spent either A, growing your business, getting more work, or B, being with your family and living your life, drinking a beer on the patio. Anything rather than sitting in front of the computer building memory mates. That's just not what anybody should be doing. So
Exactly, and then they're getting back all that data. They're getting back the finished images, and like you touched on earlier, then they can use rows to order, which that's another step we can help with on this end as working in synergy with NextGen. We can show you how easy it is to place those orders using the data that they provide. So it's kind of a win-win. Again, less work for you, for the photographers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I don't have any. Is there any other questions from anybody in the webinar here? Because we're gonna send a follow-up email to everybody who joined and everyone who missed the beginning. So you guys will have a little recap, and we'll send Wes's contact info, my contact info.
Yeah, basically, if you guys are interested, what you can do is if you go to nextgenphotosolutions.com and click on Get Started, it'll ask you some questions about your business, and I can tell you the reason why we ask those questions about your business is we really want to limit NextGen to working real photography companies. We don't want we don't want this power getting into the wrong hands. So we don't want just anybody being able to come in and start utilizing NextGen. So some people, because it asks you in there even for like your business EIN number. We just want to know that somebody is a legitimate business, not, just somebody that is trying to become competition for you guys. That's a big deal right now. So the big part of this, and I touched on it earlier, was giving you a product that not just anybody can do, but that only is as relevant as us keeping people from, having it that aren't, real businesses. So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I put the link there in the chat for everyone. And of course, like I said, we'll email that as well.
Do you have any, if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to email me. There's an email, support@nextgenphotosolutions.com. You can email me there. You can sign up. I'll send you a training video. You can see a real detailed walkthrough of the system. And yeah, if you got any questions, let me know. But we're here.
Wes just touched on it today. I mean, there's so much more, and there's so many more advantages to using the system. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this today. And if there aren't any more questions, we're going to go ahead and log off and end the webinar today. And thanks again for joining.
Thanks, everybody.